So 20 properties for £100,000 each gives us £2 million. Okay. And of course, all these properties were bought in central London, weren't they? In 2005, that's right. Okay. So how much are they worth now in central London?
350, 400.
Remember, I like nice, easy, round numbers. £500,000, okay, per property. So it's going to be £10 million, yeah? And all these properties are mortgaged. So Mr. Smith has a problem. He's a high rate taxpayer, and he's going to lose out on the mortgage interest relief. So if he incorporates now, our friend over here was right, he may have to pay capital gains tax. He may, but he'll definitely have to pay stamp duty, land tax. Okay? The way he could avoid capital gains tax is, go on Michael, because I know you want to give me the answer.
Doing what we're doing.
No.
No.
What are you doing? No, you covered it already. Okay, so if a business incorporates, then you don't pay capital gains tax. That's under section 162, okay, incorporation relief. This is covered in the book, by the way, but I'm just sharing this because it seems like some people might find it useful. Section 162, incorporation relief. So if you have a number of properties, you can justify to HMRC that you have a business, and the landmark case is the Elizabeth Moyne Ramsey case, where she had 10 flats, and she was spending 20 hours per week working in and on her business, and she was able to demonstrate to the first year tribunal she had a business, so there was no capital gains tax to pay. So will Mr. Smith be okay, do you think, if he's got 20 properties and he manages them himself? Do you think he can justify he works 20 hours a week? Yeah? Okay. So we're happy there's no CGT to pay. We'll do it over here. We're happy there's no CGT to pay, because he has a business and he's going to use section 162. His next problem is stamp duty, land tax. As an individual, if he moves it into a limited company, he'll have to pay stamp duty, land tax. One way around that could be if a partnership exists. So a lot of people at the moment are forming a partnership with their husband or their wife or their spouse, okay, and then running that particular business for 2 or 3 years. This is the general advice out there. Run it for 2 or 3 years, and then you incorporate, and then you don't pay stamp duty, land tax. Is that about right, Michael? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The bad news for you is that doesn't quite work. And the reason why it doesn't work, aren't you glad you came, is that if, okay, on the day that you form your partnership, you have an intention to incorporate at some point in the future, then there's anti-avoidance rules to say you can't get the stamp duty, land tax exemption. All right? And it's going to be very difficult for you to prove, to some extent, that the only reason that you formed a partnership was to incorporate, okay, and to save on the stamp duty, land tax. Yeah? So that's a big problem you need to overcome. Yeah? So that doesn't always work. If you've always had a partnership, then you're okay. If you form a partnership, especially for this particular reason, you have a problem. But let's say you've always had a partnership. Then you move it into a limited company, you're okay, you're not going to pay stamp duty, land tax. The other thing you need to look out for is, when you get to this particular stage, when you're about to incorporate, what usually happens is that the individuals refinance in the name of the company. When they refinance in the name of the company, this is what happens. So this is a real big one. So here's the company, here's the individuals, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Okay, that's not quite right. And they've got £10 million worth of property, and let's say they've got £6 million worth of loans. When they refinance in the company for £6 million, what are they going to do with that money? Anybody? No, they're going to use that money, aren't they, to repay this loan, aren't they? Yeah? Because they've refinanced in the name of the company, haven't they? So they're going to use those mortgages to repay their existing mortgages, aren't they? Everybody with me? So the company now is paying somebody's personal debt. When a company pays somebody's personal debt, what happens from a tax perspective? Sorry? It could be a benefit in kind. It's a benefit in kind if it's a loan, okay, and the directors aren't paying interest, okay? So it's a benefit in kind if there's no interest being paid, which means you file a P11D, okay, and pay tax. What else happens apart from that? You all know the answer. Believe me, you all know the answer. When a company gives a director a loan, what happens? We've got interest. If you haven't paid the loan back within 9 months of the year end, you've got to pay tax under section 455. Does anybody know how much that is? 32.5%. You get that back, you can get that back if you repay the loan, okay? But if you don't pay it back, HMRC hold on to 32.5%. So a lot of people, Michael and Kalpana, are incorporating like yourselves, okay? And they're incorporating, refinancing, and then paying off their loans. There's a big problem that exists here. So now you've got a stamp duty land tax problem that you've possibly created, and you have a section 455 problem that you've created. Most people are not going to pay the benefit in kind tax. Most people aren't going to think about this because most accountants aren't talking about this. Okay, you've got a big problem. This problem I can solve for you. The stamp duty land tax I can't, I'm afraid. So when you incorporate, what you do is you refinance in your own names, but you make the lender aware that in the next couple of months you're going to novate the loan, which basically means you're going to move the loan from your own names into the company. So no money changes hands, nothing else happens. All you do is this disappears and the loan moves in here. And now the company becomes responsible for the loans, and therefore there's no section 455, there's no benefit in kind tax. Kalpana and Michael, are you happy with that? Is everybody else happy with that so far? Any questions?
I have one.
Yeah, so, yeah.
So we'll start with you, Kalpana, and then we'll go around. Here you go.
Quick question. If we wanted to just keep it as a partnership
Yeah.
Yeah,
and not do that bit, which is what we're thinking,
Yeah.
because it kind of works for us,
yeah.
would there be any issue with that?
I would leave it like that. I would leave it as a partnership. Run it as a partnership for as long as you can. The longer you run it as a partnership, and then you incorporate at some point in the future, the more likely that the SDLT relief will apply to you.
Okay, so then the question is, what's the benefit for us moving it from the partnership to a limited company? What's the?
Generally speaking, people out there
can't see it.
are doing it to escape Section 24.
That's
So
the interest.
the interest on the mortgage, yeah?
Yeah.
The tax relief on the mortgage interest, yeah?
Yeah.
That's why people are doing it.